Welcome back here with Goldberg. I am prepared to do battle. Today we will be doing something that's part social commentary and also includes the educational aspect, which is a positive, as long as that you're not HIV positive. Now, many of you, of course, have heard that because of love in the time of the corona, higher education is struggling. They're making cuts, they don't have enough enrollment, some are debating shutting down, and I have great sympathy for the lower level people, the janitors, the cafeteria workers, folks who could lose their jobs. At the same time, I'm not exactly shedding tears for the faculty and administrators because they've been committing malpractice as far as I'm concerned. You are not looking out for someone's interests when you tell them to spend 4 years in school going into truckloads of debt, at least 50 or 60 grand in many cases. The total cost, I think the average debt load is something like 35K. Or 31K, you're not helping them, especially if they're not exactly guaranteed a job. So when they come and they shill about, oh no, what's going to happen to universities? Just like with newspapers, I say, well, you could have done something, but you didn't care. You were milking that cow to the very end. And if we cycle back to 2009, that was when, Barack Obama was in power, Bernie Booty Boy. College degrees, it's like a high school diploma, man. And in the internet sphere, you would have heard stuff like, just major in STEM, brah. You gotta do art history, panties. And, of course, a lot of those folks weren't considering, sure, you could even do the tech degree. But you come out, and what do? They lowball you because you don't have experience. And even if you do have some experience, what is then the next step? They say, oh, well, you have to get certificates. And so the question is, why are you spending all this time and money in university, and then you still have to do all these other things to be considered for a decent job? So you have this paradigm shift going on that we're going to discuss. I do want to thank the Lord Shiva for a recommendation as for this video topic. Now, you are seeing this because Google just announced 100,000 scholarships for Coursera certificates. And remember when folks were mocking me for talking about the Google IT support certificate? Oh, no one takes it seriously. Well, look at there. They're saying that they're going to treat Coursera certificates, whether in IT support, I think they have one on Python, project management, they're going to look at them as though they were almost college degrees, and you can be hired on that basis. This is for two reasons. One, corporations are realizing that they still have to train college graduates, so they say, why not just speed up the process? Two, there's also the racism aspect. Some folks can't get college degrees, supposedly they don't have money, and so it's cheaper to do a Coursera certificate. So many of you, if you're on the younger side, you might say, should I still go to college? It's difficult for me to recommend such a path. Now, of course, you want to be a CPA. I think you have to have a degree for CFP, Certified Financial Planner. It's the same. But in a lot of spheres and industries, you can get by just with the certificates and experience. That's been the push, not so much by Trump, but in the Trump era, because companies are realizing, again, it's not worth waiting for these people to come out of college who've been partying and don't really know how to function in a work environment. So with Coursera, just to give you an example, I think it's like $200 some, maybe $300 or $400 if you want to do the full sequence for a certificate. I, of course, sped it up. I only paid $98 because it's on a subscription basis, so it's the number of months, not individual courses. Now, some of the smugger institutions like UPenn still try to charge people a lot more and restrict you as far as completing classes, but if you're willing to put in the time, it's not that difficult. So right there, you're talking about a certificate you can earn for maybe $100, couple $100 versus even an equivalent university certificate like Gen Education is probably going to cost you, 5 or 6 grand easily. And if you look at certificates, so I didn't really have an IT background. There's different routes you can take. If you want to do security, like information security, you can just go ahead and start studying for Security Plus. It's not insurmountable. I personally am not bad-mouthing them. I wouldn't spend time on like A+. Just go for Security Plus if you want to go in that direction. If you're interested in like network engineering, CCNA routing and switching. Some people will tell you network plus. The government looks kindly on it, but it's not as in-depth. It doesn't give you the same, or it doesn't require the same skill set to pass. So you have to weigh that yourself. I have Security Plus. I also did ITIL Foundations, which is more bureaucratic project management stuff. I'm currently studying for Ethical Hacker, and then after that I'll probably do CASP or maybe even CISSP. Now, there's a good point right there, because CISSP is pretty difficult. It's fairly involving and intense. But even if you dedicated, let's say, a year of intense study and you pass that, you just managed to, as someone without even a background in tech, which it's doable, it's not easy, but it's doable, you are already light years ahead of people who are coming out with an IT degree, because that certificate's almost like a master's degree in the working world. So I'm not going to say you can write your own salary or your own paycheck, but once you get experience, because you only start out with the associate CISP, you'd be in pretty good hands. But even getting a lesser one like Security Plus, you can get a decent entry-level job. You don't have to sit there being like, oh, shoot, after I've gotten all this debt, now I've got to try to make enough to pay the loan back. And suppose that you were to say, okay, I want to do the full in-depth training. I don't just want to study out of the book for these certs. That might run you $2 or $3 grand, but that's still cheaper than being in university, where you're less likely to be working full-time, depending on the case. So you could be in a much better situation. You can be actually earning a salary as opposed to just, puddling along and trying to get an unpaid internship. This is the fundamental problem with the way that our educational system is structured. So, and one thing to really emphasize, you're going to see the shift. You're going to see more people getting into Coursera, more people getting into certs, which is why if you're young now, you want to start studying, because as these cert companies, which are very freaking shady and corrupt, they used to just let you take the cert once. Now you have to renew them. But what they're going to do is they're going to increase the difficulty and increase the prices as more people go in that direction. So the sooner that you do it, the better you are off. You can look for certain sites. I don't know the name exactly, but they'll sell you vouchers for the exam that are closer to expiring. So once you're ready to test, instead of paying the full price, you get, I think it's a 20 or 30% discount, that's what I did. It's a good route to take, honestly. If knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have gone to college, because, to be honest, I did learn stuff in college, but you spend a lot of money, and because you're doing all that time spending the money to learn, you have less time overall to make money, depending on the situation. So it's all going to be about where you want to go. Do not, of course, if you get a cert, especially younger and you haven't quite used it, don't let it lapse. Take the classes, pay the fees, keep it current. There's a guy I know who he had the CASP, which is a pretty decent cert nowadays, but when he got it, no one really cared, and he let it expire. Now that's quite valuable. So anything you have certificate-wise, don't let it just go by the wayside because you forgot. Pay the fees, suck it up, and you'll be better off. So yes, overall, and it's going to depend on the industry. Some of these ones you have to have a degree, okay, but a lot of the times getting the certs and getting some experience will be more than enough. And if someone's not willing to hire you, look into stuff like Auxiliary National Guard, Volunteer Match. There are organizations that have positions. You do EMS, and you can work with their computer systems, and you might not get paid, but you can put that on your resume and it'll boost your chances of getting a position. So yes, I would recommend focus on certificates. If you have a clear idea of what you want to do, or even a generalized idea, that's the route to take. Avoid the idea, I've got to have a bachelor's, I've got to have a master's, because I'm telling you right now, those people are the ones that are now studying for the same certs they could have done without all those degrees.